James and Claire's love story began like a whirlwind romance, full of passion, laughter, and promises of forever. They were the couple everyone envied, the kind that friends would look at and say, "I want what they have." For years, their life was filled with long stargazing nights, spontaneous weekend getaways, and soft kisses that spoke a language only the two of them understood. James cherished Claire, showering her with affection and making her feel like the most special person in his world. But as time passed, the demands of everyday life and the stress of work began to steal the magic they once had. Claire found herself longing for the days when James's touch would send shivers down her spine, when they'd make love with a passion that could set the world on fire. She missed the way he used to surprise her with small gestures. A rose on her pillow, a note in her lunchbox, a whisper in her ear that promised they'd always have each other. Those moments faded as James became more consumed with his career, often too tired or distracted to see the loneliness growing in Claire's eyes. She tried to tell him how she felt, but her words always seemed to get lost in the noise of their busy lives. Then Ethan came along, a man from her past, someone who seemed to understand her like no one else did. He was charming, with a boyish grin that made her heart flutter and a way of making her feel seen. Claire tried to resist the pull at first, convincing herself that it was just harmless fun. But their secret meetings quickly turned into something more, a dance of temptation that neither of them could deny. They'd sneak away to quiet corners, laughing like teenagers who'd just discovered love for the first time. They'd share stolen kisses that were electric, filled with the kind of raw desire she hadn't felt in years. Their romance became a secret world, hidden from the eyes of everyone who thought they knew them. They met in places far from home, cafes where no one would recognize them, secluded spots by the lake where they could hold hands and talk for hours without interruptions. Ethan would trace his fingers along Claire's cheek, whispering words that made her feel alive, like a woman desired and adored. They'd hold each other close under the dim glow of street lamps, their bodies pressed together, hearts beating in sync, each kiss more intense than the last. The thrill of secrecy only heightened their passion, making every touch feel forbidden yet intoxicating. They'd share fantasies of what their life could be if they weren't bound by the commitments that held them back. Ethan made her laugh in a way she hadn't in years. He made her feel like the woman she used to be, the carefree, wild spirit who believed in endless possibilities. They'd dance in the rain, laughing as if the world didn't matter, as if they were the only two souls alive. Each moment with Ethan was like reliving a dream that she thought she'd lost, a dream where love was new, exciting, and limitless. But the bliss didn't last. One fateful evening, as Claire sat on their couch, whispering sweet nothings to Ethan on a video call, fate dealt its cruel hand. James came home early that day, eager to share the news of his promotion, his eyes glowing with pride at the thought of celebrating with his beloved wife. The moment he stepped inside, he noticed the soft glow of her face lit up not by joy, but by the thrill of a secret she was keeping from him. He moved quietly, his excitement fading into confusion as he caught snippets of her conversation. As he stood in the doorway, he watched Claire's face, her lips curling into a smile he hadn't seen in years. She whispered to Ethan, her eyes filled with longing. "I wish you were here with me right now. I miss your touch, your kiss." James felt as though his world had stopped spinning. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. His heart cracked open, every whispered word a dagger slicing through his chest. Claire looked up then, meeting his eyes, and in that moment, everything changed. Her smile vanished, replaced by a look of sheer terror as she realized her world was about to come crashing down. The confrontation that followed was a blur of tears, accusations, and shattered dreams. Claire tried to reach out to James, her voice trembling as she said, "James, please, let me explain." But he couldn't hear her. All he could see was the betrayal, the love of his life in the arms of another man. His voice broke as he said, "How could you do this to us, to everything we built?" Claire tried to defend herself, to explain the loneliness that had driven her to Ethan, but James's pain was too great, his trust too shattered. After that night, Claire and Ethan's connection was forced into the shadows, severed by the guilt and the devastation they had caused. but the pull between them wasn't something they could easily forget. Days turned into weeks, and despite the chaos that had erupted, they longed to see each other again. Claire's heart ached not just from the pain she had caused James, but from the void Ethan's absence left in her life. She missed the way he touched her, the way he made her feel alive and cherished, and the way he promised her a future where love was always enough. In a moment of weakness, Claire reached out to Ethan again. They met in secret one last time, hoping to find solace in each other's arms. Under the cover of darkness, away from the prying eyes of the world, they held each other close, their lips meeting in a desperate kiss that tasted of regret and longing. "I'm sorry," Ethan whispered against her lips. "I never meant to cause you pain, Claire, but loving you was like breathing. I couldn't stop, even if I tried." Tears welled up in Claire's eyes as she held on to Ethan, her heart torn between two worlds: the comfort of a love she once knew with James and the intoxicating thrill of what she shared with Ethan. "I don't know how to live without you now," she said softly, "but I don't know how to fix what I broke either. I thought I could have both, but I've lost everything." Ethan looked at her, his own eyes filled with a sadness that spoke of dreams that would never be. "Maybe we were never meant to last," he said, brushing a tear from her cheek. "But that doesn't mean our love wasn't real. It was the kind of love that changes you forever, even if it wasn't meant to be." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, they knew this was goodbye. Their love, as passionate and consuming as it had been, was a fire that burned too brightly to survive. Claire walked away that night, her heart heavy with the weight of her choices, knowing she had to face the ruins of her life and the man she had once promised to love forever. Back at home, James sat alone, staring at the picture of their wedding day, a reminder of the love they once shared and the dreams they had built together. He wanted to forgive her, to take her back and rebuild their life, but the pain of her betrayal was too fresh, too raw. Claire returned home, her eyes meeting his, full of sorrow and unspoken apologies. They both knew the journey to healing would be long and uncertain, filled with moments of doubt and memories that hurt like open wounds. "I don't know if we can ever go back to the way we were," James said quietly, his voice filled with the echoes of the love he once had. "But maybe, just maybe, we can find a way forward, a new way to love each other, to rebuild what's left." Claire nodded, a small flicker of hope lighting up in her eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes," she whispered, "because no matter how much I lost my way, you are still the only man I ever truly loved." And so they stood on the brink of a new beginning, not knowing if they could ever truly mend the broken pieces of their hearts. But somewhere, deep down, they both hoped that the love they once had was strong enough to find its way back through the darkness, to rise again from the ashes of betrayal and become something even more beautiful, even more real.